morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to check in on the top 10 most expensive cards from Shrouded Fable. It's been about a month, pretty much exactly a month, since this set actually launched, and things are getting interesting. I showed you the other day that when it comes to things like Elite Trainer boxes, the prices for this set are actually dropping quite fast, much faster than we generally see for most sets. And what's interesting is the singles are kind of all over the place. There are a bunch of them, most of them I suppose, that are doing pretty much exactly what we would imagine. They are going down in price, as cards tend to do after the release of a set. What is interesting is that we've got a gold item card now at number 1, which never happens. And very much related to that, we have got a bunch of cards which are actually rising very sharply in price indeed. Sound like a plan? Excellent. So we might as well go through a full top 10 and chat, because, we need some kind of structure. That seems to work for me. So in at number 10, we've got Duskull. The fact that this is the third most expensive illustration rare is ridiculous. Frankly, this and Dust Noir should be number 1, partly because you've got the amazing artwork by James Turner, partly because they're actually legit playable cards. I don't really get how this sneaks in as the third highest illustration rare and Dust Noir doesn't even make the list, and we've seen a big drop from $26 down to $20, but I don't know, that's where we are. This one at least does make sense to being on the list, because very playable card, phenomenal artwork. In at number 9, we've got Gold Pecharunt EX, which is actually jumping up. It's gone from $15 to, let's call it $23, and that's happened, well, it kind of went steadily and then jumped about a week ago. And essentially, the reason for this is people are starting to realize how good Pecharunt is. Yes, you've got the ability that lets you switch out your Darkness Pokemon. That's a good thing. That is not the only thing we've got going on here, because we've also got the attack that for 2 energy can deal 60 damage for each prize card your opponent's taken. Which means if they've taken 5 prizes, it's the end of the game, you hit 300 damage for 2 energy. Yeah. People are starting to realize how good Pecharunt is, and that is starting to rocket up. This is not the only Pecharunt on this list. It is worth noting, I suppose, Full Art Pecharunt isn't going up. That one's going down like we might imagine. That one's dropped as low as $3. So gold, yeah, jumping. Full Art, absolutely not. In at number 8, we've got the illustration rare of Houndoom. And this is one of the ones that just makes no sense. I'm sorry, but no. This over Duskull and Dust Noir? Nah, mate. You are having a laugh. You see, it's not that I don't think it's a beautiful card. It clearly is. I like this card. I have it in Japanese. I've got most of the illustration rares in Japanese. I love this card. It's beautiful. What I don't think is fair is this being as high up as it is. Yes, the art's amazing, but let's not pretend we haven't got a million amazing illustration rares at this point, because we totally do. And also, it's not playable. It's not a good card. So the only thing keeping it here is either the Pokemon or the art, and Houndoom's not that popular, and the art's good, but it's not that good. This is too high. It's another one that has jumped up in price lately. And again, I don't really understand why. Some of these, I get it. Some of these, it makes perfect sense. This doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. This shouldn't be so high. I imagine it would drop down. Like Persian, which comes in at number 7. This one has dropped from $29 down to about $24. And to be clear, I've put this and Houndoom both at $24. And if you look at the market price on TCG Player, Persian is ahead by 13 cents. Generally, it tends to be a little bit higher, so it is very, 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 very close. But I do feel pretty confident putting it up here. Like I say, it is very, very close. But these seem like they're about to swap, Because whereas Houndoom is jumping up, Persian is crashing down, as it should be. Because what I can tell you about Persian is exactly what I just told you about Houndoom. Except Persian is a little more popular as a Pokemon. It's a nice Pokemon, but not good enough to be this high. It's nice artwork, but it's not good enough to be this high. And the card is not playable. So why is this so high? And the answer is, I don't really know. This happens every set. We take one or two illustration rares that aren't that playable, that aren't featuring Pokemon that are that popular, and for some reason, we just put them way higher than they should be. It doesn't make a huge amount of sense, but unfortunately, that's where we are right now. In at number 6, a card which makes a lot more sense at about $26 is Gold Basic Darkness Energy. This is about the best set we've had in a very long time for gold cards. Gold cards generally don't move the needle that much. We don't usually see all of them in the top 10. We actually do this time, which is kind of nice. Why Darkness Energy though? I'm not 100% sure here, because Darkness decks aren't that good. Now, Roaring Moon is a good deck, and Roaring Moon EX is a good deck. But they're not exactly the best decks in the format right now. They are good decks. They see a bunch of play. I like them very much. And we saw them at the World Championships, especially, well, both of them to be fair. We saw them at the World Championships. They did very well. But post-Worlds, they're not exactly lighting it on fire. And over in the Japanese metagame right now, they're not exactly lighting it on fire. They're good decks. But maybe it's just a case of people like them, and right now, that's enough. And you know what? Yeah, maybe that is the answer. People just think they're neat. Either way, Darkness Energy is jumping up. And to be fair, if Darkness decks do end up being good, this is going to be a card that's only going to keep climbing. In at number 5, we got the special illustration rare of Okidogi, and this one has been what we would expect. We've dropped down to $26, same as we said for Darkness Energy, but generally trending ever so slightly higher. And basically, it looks like I was wrong about this card. I really like this card. I think it's got a whole bunch of potential. I think it's a very nice card, but it's been legal for a while. It was legal at Worlds, and this is a card that's doing nothing right now. It's not representing, it's not doing well. I wish it were. I like this card, I like Okidogi as a Pokemon, but the verdict's in, this card isn't very good. In at number 4, we got the special illustration rare of Pecharunt, also at about $26. And yeah, basically, they're all very close together. But remember what I told you about Pecharunt a moment ago? Remember how I told you this was a really good card and that people were starting to realize how good it was and that was starting to make a difference? Yeah, that, basically. And don't sleep on this card, because it's not just what it's for now. Like, basically any Darkness deck for the next couple of years until this rotates, any Darkness deck is going to be playing this card. So you probably need to have this one on your radar. Interesting that the gold is jumping up where the special illustration rare is really crashing. I'm not a huge fan of a special illustration rare Pecharunt. Maybe a bunch of other people out there think the same. In at number 3, we've got the special illustration rare of Cassiopeia. This one's gone down to about $50. As it should have done. I told you on release that, $100 to $80 was absurd for this card. It's not good enough, and special illustration rare supporters, generally speaking, don't do that. They don't hold their value that well. They always crash, and I'm not saying it's going to crash down to like $10. That was never going to be the case, but it was always going to crash down to a reasonable level. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if this kept going down to like $30 or $40. 50 is a good start. It could keep falling. I do, however, adore the art on this card. I think it looks phenomenal. And also, Searching for any 2 cards when this is the last card in your hand, I'm just saying, seems like some decks can use it. In at number 2, having been cruelly pushed off the top spot, but don't worry, it can fly, we've got the special illustration rare of Fezandipiti. And this one is about a $60 card, but again you'll notice from the graph that there is a fairly substantial downward spiral going on here. And this shouldn't really surprise anyone. This is a phenomenal card, don't get me wrong, this card is amazing. Brilliant card. Lets you draw 3 cards if you had a Pokemon KO during your opponent's last turn. It's brilliant. And the special illustration rare is lovely. But most people are playing one of these because the ability doesn't stack. You can only use 1 per turn. And generally speaking, most Pokemon, even the really good ones, don't stay above $50. So this has crashed down to 60, and just like we said with Cassiopeia, I could see this one going down and down and down. So what does that leave at number 1? Earthen Vessel, which has jumped up to about a $65 card. But it's a phenomenal card. It sees a huge amount of play and a huge amount of decks. A gold Earthen Vessel, you discard a card from your hand and search for any 2 basic energy. This is a ridiculous card, which is going to be great for as long as it's legal, and it's going to see play in a lot of decks, and I think cards like this probably should end up being the most expensive cards in the set, because they're going to be used in so many more decks. You go and buy a special illustration rare Pokemon, and you stop playing that Pokemon, and all of a sudden, this one is garbage. Well, here, you can completely change your deck, and this still ends up being a legit card, and I honestly think that makes a big difference. I'm not sure if everybody thinks the way I do about this, but this is one that I've absolutely got on my radar for this reason, and I do think it's going to be important moving forward. But it's been jumping up in price, and that's what's interesting here. A bunch of these. Earthen Vessel has been jumping up in price quite nicely. Basic Darkness Energy has been jumping up. Gold Pecharunt has been jumping up. Houndoom has been jumping up. Nearly half the cards in this top 10 list have actually jumped up in price here. That is not generally what we see a month into the set. This is something we need to keep an eye on. But I've told you everything you need to know now, so now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about this in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. And get shoutouts on the channel like Andrew Kincaid, who's been a supporter of ours for a long time and is a very lovely person. You might see them helping out at Pokemon tournaments over in the Play Lab and such, so shout out to them for being awesome. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.